So in this video, I'm coming to you from Palm Beach, Florida. Right there, there's the beach. And the reason why I'm here is I'm on the trail to the rights of another amazing true life story. So I want to explain in this video, I want to give you an overview on how to acquire rights and the kinds of deals you want to make with rights holders. Because if you're a screenwriter, and a lot of you of course are, this is a great way, if you can attach yourself to a really amazing story, a really amazing true life story, you will then have the leverage perhaps to make a deal where you're going to be the first writer on the project. Because a lot of times if you're just starting out and you have a great screenplay, you might be replaced with another writer, or if you have a great true story that you're pitching to a producer, that producer might want to go hire another writer and acquire the rights himself. But if you have the rights already, you'll be able to use that as leverage to get hired as the writer. And this actually happened on Hacksaw Ridge. So Hacksaw Ridge was brought to me by a writer. He wanted to write the screenplay, so he acquired the rights to Desmond Doss's story, and then that gave him all the leverage to be hired as the first writer of the screenplay. And it also gave him a producing deal, so he would be compensated just in case he wasn't credited on the screenplay. He would become a producer on the film as well. Okay, so I'm down here, and the way this story came about, and I can't really get into the details of what it is yet, it's confidential, but I found a story. I was on vacation over Christmas, and I found a true story that I thought would be an amazing movie, so I set out to try to acquire the rights. Now, on a lot of true stories, there will be like a principal character, and that person may be living or that person may be deceased. Now, if that person is living, okay, so it's a person who's maybe done something incredible and you want to make, or you want to write a screenplay about their life, you're going to have to acquire their life rights in order to do this, because you're going to need permission. Now, this is if the person is still living. If that person happens to be deceased, you do not need any rights, any life rights to their story. But the other thing you may want to look into is if there was a book written about that person, or if it's subject matter, there might be a book written about the subject matter. So in that scenario, you're going to want to try to acquire the rights to the book, okay? Now, the way that works, you find the book, you get the book, you look in the first couple pages of the book, it's going to tell you who the publisher is. You track down the publisher. A lot of them are in New York, or they used to be. Some of the big ones anyway are still there. And you contact the publisher, and you go to, you have to be transferred, if you call, you have to be transferred to the subsidiary rights department, okay, or the allied rights department. And this is the department where they're going to have knowledge about the film and TV rights for that book. And then they're going to ask you, very likely, to send them an email, which is going to be your inquiry. You'll tell them the name of the title of the book, the author, and when it was published. And you're going to ask them who represents the rights, the feature film and TV rights to this book. And they're going to get back to you, and they're going to let you know who the agent is, or who the contact is for that book and for those rights, okay? And then the next step is you then have to approach that party, tell them you're interested in making a movie, and then you can see if you can get them on board to give you the rights for a period of time, so you could either shop those rights around to producers, or to give you the time to write the screenplay and conceivably sell the rights and the screenplay as part of a package. And if you have those rights, and it's a really high-end, really incredible true story like Hacksaw Ridge was, you're going to have a lot of interest from producers wanting to acquire that screenplay, or wanting to acquire those rights and get into business with you as either a writer, producer, or both. Okay, so that's a way that you can really come out of the gate if you're just starting out in your career and establish instant credibility if you have the rights to a really amazing true story. Okay, now there are different types of agreements you might want to do with the person who controls those rights. Now, you might be speaking to an agent, okay, and the conversation with that agent is going to be maybe a couple different things. There's 2 or 3 ways that you can approach this. And the first way is through an option agreement and option purchase agreement. And this is where you have a period of time, an exclusive period of time, to go out and shop the rights to that project, okay, which also would hopefully include your screenplay. And it gives you time to go out and do that. And then if you're successful in doing that, the agreement may also lay out what the purchase price would be for those rights. And you want to sort of nail that down, so you're not going to a producer and then the producer who's interested goes back to the rights holders and then they start asking for millions and millions of dollars, which sometimes can happen. So you want to sort of, before you go out to producers, you want to negotiate some type of option agreement, purchase agreement that kind of gives the parameters of what those rights will cost a producer. Okay, and then the screenplay, of course, it's up to you to sell that, and you can determine the price of that yourself. Now, the other way you can do this is through a shopping agreement. That's not as involved. There sometimes, won't be a purchase price, there can be, but a shopping agreement is just an arrangement that you would have with the agent to go out and shop the project, again, along with your screenplay, to producers to see if somebody will come to the table to want to make a deal. So that's another way of getting in business with the rights holders of the project that you want to pursue. Okay, so this is a really, really strong way to elevate your career. Attach yourself to either a best-selling book or a book of just an amazing true story that nobody's heard of, or life rights. Okay, so if the person is living, you're going to have to make an agreement with them, and that's going to be called a life rights agreement, and that's very similar to an option agreement. It's going to lay out what you're paying for their life rights, what maybe the option periods, the length of time the option periods are, and if there's payment for having an exclusive right during those option periods for the producer. So that's all going to be laid out in that life rights agreement. But those are the ways, that's how you sort of pursue life rights. Now, in this case, for this story that I'm pursuing, the person is deceased, so I'm approaching his family, and they're the ones I'm going to make a deal with, and it could be an option of their rights, it could be a shopping agreement, or I could partner with them and bring them on board as either producers or technical consultants, give them a credit as a technical consultant or producer. I can offer them that, and compensate them for doing the job as a technical consultant, which is basically an opportunity for them to meet with the writer. Okay, sometimes writers will want to meet with the principals, and they'll want to talk to them and ask them questions about the story. Maybe if they're attached to somebody who is already deceased, they're going to ask them questions. What was it like? What was that person like? Things like that. Now, this is important to have rights in these true story scenarios, because producers are going to want to have more than just the screenplay. They're going to want to have some attachments to some underlying rights, because sometimes that's going to be more valuable, of course, when they're bringing that package to a studio. Okay, so it's going to attract producers. It can also attract a studio as well. Okay, I hope this was an informative video. This is for writers and producers who are looking to acquire rights, true life story rights. I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, of course, you can always reach out to me at longitudeentertainment.com, and we'll talk to you soon.